Maryland sports fans, there's only one sports book in the great state of Maryland with over 50 years experience booking bets and supporting customers. Betfred Sportsbook at Longshots is now open and is the only sportsbook in Frederick offering cash betting on football, basketball, world soccer, and more. Visit the Betfred Sportsbook at I-270 and MD-85 in Frederick, right next to Longshots off-track betting. Go to betfredsports.com for more information and your chance to win exclusive merchandise. Must be 21 or older. Play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Stop! Yeah! And if you don't like it, you better take your ass up to the snooty box, because this is the loud spot! Okay, see you later.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Loud Spot. I'm your host, Sebastian, right out of Oklahoma City. Today we are doing something different. It's not really a musical podcast. We are trying to grow and grow the show a little bit. So tonight we have Neil Darish on the show, and he is on the Discovery Channel's Edge of Alaska. How are you, Neil?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks again for having me, Sebastian.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the show. I'm super excited. Super excited about you coming on here. I reached out to you on Facebook. Loves the show, right? So that's what happens when I don't have cable and I'm watching Discovery Channel Plus. I go through different shows, and Edge of Alaska said that seems pretty interesting. So sorry, I'm reading the comments. That was pretty interesting. I reached out to you, and here we are. And I talked to you a couple times. So how did the show even come to fruition?
Well, a long time ago, we're in a big national park, and it's the last community still in a national park. And it's been a ghost town that I've been restoring since 2001. And we had this idea about 10 years in that if the town became known, it not only would be good for tourism, but mostly it would keep the Park Service from trying to push us out. And so it was kind of a serious issue. There's 1 million acres of private land in this national park. That's 13 million acres.
Okay.
And it's the last community that's still there. It's not a native allotment or tribal land. There are 600,000 acres of tribal lands in the park too that Otna have. But it was just kind of a cool thing to do. And of course, the reason why I'm intrigued about Loud Spot is we do involve ourselves in music. That was never part of the TV show, but what we're building is a community. When I started, there were people living there, but it was a few dozen. And even now there's only, 30, 40 people that live there year round.
Right.
We're surrounded by more mountains and glaciers than anywhere on the planet. So the show got started because we were kind of in turmoil with our neighbors, the Park Service. These are professionals that are in the national park for the same reason we are, because we love wilderness. But in that wilderness is this community, and it's all a lot of young energy, and it's all about, extreme sports in a way. Like normally when you go on vacation, hot air balloon or snorkeling or whatever, anybody can do it. But a lot of stuff out there is more like scuba diving. You kind of need a little bit of training, or you're really into mountain climbing. And so it's a high energy, kind of a young crowd.
So what
it was hard to kind of separate the two, because we were thinking, hey, we'll talk about the park and all this stuff. And that had nothing to do with when you do theater, which is kind of what the Discovery stuff is. It's an exaggeration of our life. So the parts that are interesting to the viewers, they're probably less interesting to us as people who live there. And the things that are interesting to us may be boring to the viewers. So it got started because we wanted to be let alone in the national park, basically. And one way to do it would be if people knew about us, then the park couldn't pretend we didn't exist. And so it's I'm kind of being harsh in a way, but the relationship is really great now, as far as how it is to be a local in a national park. It's the last community still in the national park, and that's important. So the show doesn't really get into that too much, but that's why we did it. And it started because we approached And then we were approached a few years after our approach to them didn't work. They came back with a new idea.
So how do you approach you guys approach Discovery? Was it Discovery Channel or was it just like other networks and decided?
Yeah. So like for people out there that are thinking, how do you get into this? Right. Like how we were told by others from outside, hey, this should be a reality show because there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on and our lives are different. But I understand now, having been through it more than I did when we started. And I think the thing that we did was we hired somebody to come up and film us and do what's called a sizzle reel, like a few minutes of what it would be like with these people.
Okay.
And it was shown to all, like Discovery, Nat Geo, and Food Network and others came back. But the version we were doing was summertime, and it was with our crazy chef doing all kinds of fun experimental things. And, and each one of the networks came back and said, yeah, we like this idea. We like the characters, but can the chef hunt for the food? And I said, well, are you out of your mind? I mean, we're in a national park. Okay, so now fast forward to today. If I go back to 2011 when we made that approach and they had said that, I'd say, are you kidding me? We're serving polar bear on Thursday. Get your artichoke. Right. So that's, so part of it is being able to poke fun at yourself and the ideas, but for your audience, there are definitely people out there that have an unusual life, right? We all have an unusual life. And how do you make that dramatic if you were going to try to promote it using that avenue? Let's make it relevant for your listeners, right? So they've got something exciting. They got what you have to do. It's remember that all of this is character driven. So it's less about, what the obstacle is, and it's more about how you overcome obstacles. And so by the time the audience realizes that, I'm not going to kill the other guy or the other guy's not going to kill me, they're suckered into the characters. And so that's what drives it. So if you've got interesting personalities, and I've seen some of your podcasts, so you got interesting personalities, right? And so to have them come across in a way that makes sense, you have to be able to let go of what you're attached to, which is your ego and your personality. And yet you still have a big ego, or how do you get into entertainment and the front of stuff? So I'm the only advice I'd have for people who are trying is, of course, to persevere. Don't give up. Don't take no as an answer, right? And have great, entertaining personalities, bigger than life kind of things going on. Because the people that watch these shows, it's not an insult. What it is they have a 9-to-5 life, right? We're all in a world where at least when we're young, we don't want a 9-to-5 life. And so I was fortunate enough to live something a little different than 9-to-5. And that's what these shows are. They're drama based on an exaggeration of people's lives, but they're true to the ethos of what it's like to be in remote Alaska. Am I going to get frostbitten because I lost my glove on a snow machine? Absolutely not. But would it look like I'm going to die on the snow machine in the show? Yes, because that's what gets people in the drama. So if you let go of that and you let the producers help create the story, they're not going to write scripts, but they are going to know that, Sally and Ralph do this dance every day at this time, and that's their relationship and that's their dynamic. And so the producers can bring out the dynamic. The hard part is finding people who have a big personality and are willing to give it, everything to the producers so that they can make it work. That's really hard, to let go of protecting yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's someone else that's putting it together.
So then when you're on the show, everyone still see, because you read things online and there's stuff that's true, there's stuff that's not true. People say it's scripted, and I would probably, from what you're saying, it's not scripted. But they probably suggest conversations.
I'll tell you how it works. I'll tell you how it works because it's not a secret and it's not breaking the ideas. The idea is that first it's theater, and it doesn't make it a lie or right or wrong. It's just a way of creating story, and it is story, and they're not written for Alaskans. They're written for people who are going to be drawn into the drama,
like me.
Like character, but you're a character too. So if it was the other way around, and I saw your podcast, so I've seen what kind of character you are too. Otherwise, there wouldn't be something there, right? So you have to have a dynamic, a personality. Like there were lots of people that wanted to be on the show, many more that didn't, it have nothing to do with it. But the people that were brave enough to want to be in it, there were some people that I wish could have been on it, but they would have talked like this.
And that's not entertainment, right?
Well, I don't know. Does this sound entertaining? I don't think so. So it's really that simple. You have to be a little bit, you have to have a sense of urgency or something, right? That some kind of. So when you put those personalities, and it's an interesting dynamic in front of a producer. So is it scripted? It's not scripted. It's more like they know the personalities, and they're saying, well, what do you do? So for us, it was, what are you doing today? Well, I'm going to go out onto this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do the other thing. And they're like, okay, well, we'll go over there. So what the technology, or the technique it's called rather, is scene scripted. Okay. So that's where they'll say, we know that we're going to be over by this building, and this is going to happen. And so they don't really know how it's going to, we don't know what we're going to say. They don't tell us.
Right.
And that's not really, that doesn't mean that sometimes they're putting together a narrative, a story. So sometimes they have to fit stuff in. So here's when I watch any of these shows, I realize that if it's the first year, it's very different than if it's the second or third season, because once people get used to it, you don't see the back of their head as much. And so
right.
The poor guys in production, they have all this footage, but they still have to tell a story that the viewer is going to watch. And so if I don't say the right words, they might have to do what's called Frankenbiting, which is put the words in the character's mouth. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it can be very, that's where it can be very dangerous and nefarious.
Have you watched a show? Have you ever watched a show? First of all, did you watch the show?
It was really hard.
Yeah, I know that's like, I can barely watch my own episodes sometimes.
Right. It's the same phenomena because we're doing something that's exaggerated even now, right?
Right. Sure.
Even now it's kind of exaggerated. I mean, we're not faking it. I'm not any different, but
you got to have a personality. Like when I come on, once the show starts, it's like, hey, what's up, everyone? I get the enthusiasm out, and I start talking. Was there cameramen? Oh, so by the way, the town is called McCarthy, Alaska, and there's a super neat history. There's we're gonna talk about the Motherlode mine here in a little bit. There was also a mass shooting that happened in the small town. It was also a copper mining
but
town.
Hold on for a sec. I want to insert 2 minutes of something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I also have a really cool saloon, the Golden Saloon.
Yes, we're going to talk about that as well. Yes.
In the middle of the wilderness, and it's a destination. So when your audience, when your bands are going out and they're touring Alaska, this is that little wacky way off the charts place that will make the whole experience, more than just playing Anchorage and Fairbanks and Juneau kind of thing. It's really the special part.
Do you get? I mean.
We get some fun bands. You're going
to go to McCarthy, Alaska. It's not like a place you're just going to stop by because you're on tour. It's a place that you're going to go because the band wants to have an adventure maybe and go.
Yeah, for bands, it's different than talking to regular guests. So what happens with bands is they'll come in and so they'll play, 1 or 2 nights and we know that if they're coming all the way out there, we got to do 2 nights. So it's worth it for them. They're only going to see 100, 200 people. So it's not like we got big crowds. Right. We're going to basically comp the whole stay so that they've come all the way out there. What can we do? Well, we can show them a great time and have them have an awesome, part of their Alaska vacation. But after the first night, they're going to make friends. All the locals are going to hear them. And, assuming they're talented, they're going to get invited to go on ice climbs and out rafting and whatever. It's just making friends in that little community and being part of that community. I mean, art is what makes a place hip. And so and we do a lot that's, artist driven, or we have a big artist residency program. And the bands, although they're not part of the artist residency program, it's still a big part of what makes a place interesting and hip. And so it's a ghost town that's been restored, and now it's no longer a ghost town. It's more of a tourism place, but it's not giant. It's not like Denali where there's 1 million people a year. We get 30,000 people a year.
That's
so for your audience, if there are bands that are going out to Alaska and they remember McCarthy and they start looking up, it will make sense then. So just putting them in here. Now back to what you really wanted.
So were there
that was me selling my book.
Is there cameramen that follow you around like the whole time while you're doing the show? Is there always a cameraman next to you, or is there do they schedule the time that the cameraman's going to follow you around?
So for all of these shows, right? Like there's a lot of different types of shows out there. the Edge of Alaska had the highest production values. I mean, it's pretty obvious, you know, like they put a lot of money in sound as well as in cameras. And, you know, the director of photography, this guy, Glenn Evans, amazing. In fact, I probably wouldn't have stayed in the show if it wasn't for the director of photography, Glenn. And then this other guy, South Goldnick, he actually created the show. He was the kind of the genius behind it. But it's very, very real in the sense that, you know, like Jeremy and I are best friends. But in the show, you know, there's a lot of this energy back and forth. But it tells the best version of what's it like to live in a place like McCarthy. And so even though it's somewhat exaggerated, I think it does an amazing job, better than I could do without the show. You know, I've spent decades trying to explain what's McCarthy like. It doesn't do anywhere near as well as what that show did to show what's it like to actually live there, you know, year round. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I think for the most part, there's a couple of people that drive the show, but they don't stand around next to you all day. That wouldn't make sense. They wouldn't be able to write a show. It's more like we all get together as a group for a certain amount of time, and they do their job, and we know what we're doing in story in the sense that, okay, we have to go and find that lost animal. And so what's going to happen? Well, in the real world, you go out and look for that lost animal, and you find them or you don't, right? And then maybe they're dead or maybe they're not. Okay, so in any version of story, it's 3 beats. So, you know, you go to the edge of the forest, calling out for your pet dog, and you don't find him, you know, and then the next beat, you go into the forest and you're looking and you see trails and you even see the dog and he runs away, and then it gets dark and you can't find him that time either. The third time you go in, you're going to find the dog. Right. You know, so 3 beats. So we learn that stuff, not because they need us to know it. It's just good to know what do they need in order to tell a story. So once you realize that, it becomes easier, right? So let's say you're or someone in the audience or someone wanted to tell any kind of story. It's always 3 beats. It doesn't matter if it's a movie or a reality TV show. So are they scripting that? No, but they know that if we're doing a story where these 2 characters are going to climb the mountain, it's got to be a struggle. Right. Something's going to happen. Now, do they throw a rock at you and you go, what happened? You know, some shows will do that. Our show didn't do that, you know. Will boring things happen because the producers don't make anything happen? A lot of times, but it's all over the map. It's you know, there is no one formula that works for any show. The concept is these guys doing production have to tell a story. Right. And the people in front of the camera want to protect their identity, but yet we're all vested in our own story and we want to tell our stories.
Did it take a long time once Discovery Channel reached back out to you and you get the town together, you start talking to some of the other locals in the town. Were you surprised by how many people didn't want to be on the show?
I was shocked. I was so stupid. I thought everybody who wouldn't want to do it, right? Like
I did it, yeah.
Example, right. As an example, my business partner, who's a dear friend, great mentor, I asked him, I was like season 2 or 3, it's like, hey, you know, they want some more characters and I'm suggesting you because, you know, you could even be more hated than me. And his response was, you mean check the box, be in a TV show? Sure. You know, and that's what I thought everyone would do. Like, what you talking about? Be on a show? Why not? But actually everyone was very, very afraid. And it took me a long time to figure out why. I got my opinion, you know, it's like, suppose you live a remarkable thing in McCarthy and you're not part of the show, right? And then you go down to your hometown in wherever, Texas, Boston, something. And you're talking to new people and they're like, where are you from? And you go, oh, I'm from Alaska. Oh, we're in McCarthy. And then they immediately go, did you see that show? Did you know? And they know what they saw on TV and you can't talk them out of what they've seen on TV. So
because it's in their head, it's already what's true.
Yeah. So I've got very dear friends that I genuinely feel bad. They're in McCarthy and they really resent that we did the show. They may not love me or they may not hate me, but the point is that they really resent that we did the show. And it took me a while to figure out why. And it's because we have fucked with their identity. And not intentionally, mind you, but
right.
You know, their sense of who they are is based on their life in McCarthy. And the Discovery show's version of it is very different. And so they're the way I described it is like, who cares where the salt shaker was? What difference does it make? Where, you know, they get uptight about the details. And actually, it isn't really the details, I don't think, as much as and rightfully so, their whole identity is based on what they've done, and right on, look what they've done. They've lived this remarkable life too. And it's very disturbing to go out into the world and every once in a while have people say, no, you're not right about your life. Because I saw on TV.
Yeah,
So,
what it's supposed to be like. Is it weird when someone new moves into town that, because the population of 30 or 40 people is not very big, so you would assume everyone pretty much knows everybody in town, right? I'm sure some people probably stay to themselves a little bit more. You have the bar, so I'm sure a lot of people go there, but
yeah, I mean, so there's a few dozen of us that live there year round. There's probably, and I'm not there right now. I'm in Anchorage right now. Okay. But no, I've spent the better part of 20 years, year round out there. But the last 3, I have a place in Anchorage that I go to on the off season and then go back and forth. So like I'm heading to McCarthy on Friday. Okay. But sorry, what was the question? It was.
Is it worrisome when somebody new moves into town that you don't know? I'm sure people get the red flags, right? Because
I'm the wrong guy. I'm the wrong guy to ask that. I welcome everybody. I'm not the police. I'm not there to be the mayor. I'm not there to be the governor. I'm there to be left the fuck alone so I can do what the fuck I want. I don't mean anyone any harm. I just have this project, and I want to fix this place, and I'm having a blast doing it. And that's why I'm there. I'm not there to tell anyone what to do. And I love the hospitality part. I love all that. So I'm just doing my thing. And when new people come in, I'm the guy that's welcoming them. Okay. Right. And that sometimes has been a bad thing because there's been some bad people. It's not my fault,
Of course,
and people
you don't know
for it, although there's been some things in town that I get blamed for all the time because I'm visible. But the reality is that it's an awesome community. And it used to be a bit harder, which was good. I liked it better when it was a bit harder. It's kind of like a filter. So it used to be that you trammed your way across the river, before there was a footbridge. So you get all the way down this 60-mile road, and then you got a river and you can't drive. So what do you do to get across the river? You have to pull yourself across on this cable, and it's a couple of 100 feet long, on this tram car that just the only way there for years, and so as it gets easier and easier, then the people that come in and move to a place like this are less and less self-reliant. They're more and more dependent. So let's say somebody comes and moves to a place like McCarthy, if it's your first year and everybody has to cut your wood for you and has to take care of you and fetch your water and all that, they don't have time for that.
Right.
Year 2 and 3, once you've proven yourself, they would do anything for you, right? Because they know that you'll be okay. But people can't do your daily chores or whatever it is in the homestead life, and that's kind of what matters the most is do you, the person moving in, have the personality to make it work? Do you have the personality to actually pull it off? So it's really up to the person, is if they can make it happen. It's entirely up to them.
So pretty much if you're going to go there, you better have some wilderness training skills. You
don't need it. Nah, you can do it. Actually, the truth is that it helps to have a great attitude, but that's different than the skills. So attitude is different than skills. So people with the skills will do very well, but people with a great attitude will do better than people that just have skills. So nobody that lives in Bush, Alaska, is born with the knowledge. Even if you're born in Alaska, you still have to learn a lot of survival skills. But
sure.
But again, it's attitude, like anything, more than how are we going to make this happen? In order to ask the question, how are we going to make this happen? You have to be alone.
I think life in general, honestly, is about attitude and how people perceive you. Because a good attitude is going to take you a lot farther in life than just being a dickhead. And it's true. I want to get on to the mother load mine because the show's a big part of the show.
Sure.
Mining, which is what you were opening up for tourism, right? And so this was a copper mine, right? Back in
so back in the day, it was Kennecott Copper Mine was actually the largest copper mine the richest copper mine to ever be discovered. It was back in the day, it had 90% pure ore. And so the ore, to this day, nobody's ever been able to find anything even close to that. And that created a lot of technology development, and it created these 2 towns. And there are 5 mines inside the mountains. Okay. And these mines are essentially, the Mother Lode mine, that was the subject of the Discovery show. Sure. That's owned by a friend of mine. So it is one of the 5 mines. It is the biggest mine. It really will be, I hope, a tourism destination someday. It's probably going to take. What's that?
Still not. It's still not a tourism destination.
No, and you know why? It's not because of me, and it's not because of the park. It's because of the guy that owns it. There are a lot of people that really struggle with how do they make a commercial deal. And it's just a fact. There's a lot of people that I don't really want to sell it or they can't figure out a price for something. So for Ray, he's a good friend. He's the guy that was in the show that really owns the mine. He just struggles with trying to figure out how can he. He knows that if he let me off the leash, I could get it done. You know what I mean? Like we could make it happen. I mean, it's in the historic tramway district, so it's not a conflict for the park. It would help the park actually interpret. It would actually help the park interpret the whole experience for the guests, which is kind of mission critical for them. So us actually developing the Mother Lode mine would help them in their goals. So.
Was that part of before the show even started? That was already something that you were planning on opening up, right? Was doing that, or did the show kind of provoke you to bring that into the story?
Yeah, right. So one day Ray calls me.
Okay,
this is a good way to describe. So one day Ray called me after the show was airing and all that, and there was a part of the show where one of the characters explains one of the details. I don't want to get too into the
sure. Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that's one of the characters that the viewers would know.
Okay.
And then there's another character that's a friend of Ray's. That's a miner. The guy that had all the dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool guy.
Yeah.
But what Ray was lamenting to me in a phone call was the idea that the technical guy couldn't tell the technical story. So think about it from an engineer's perspective. Ray's an engineer, and he really wants the engineer perspective in that show, right? Mm-hmm. You know how like when people say, "Yeah, why doesn't the show do this or that?" The producers know what they're doing.
Right.
Total respect. A producer, your guy Sam, he knows what he's doing, right?
Yes, he does.
So
yes, that's right.
Real valuable thing to happen. So I respect that. Okay, so if you disrespect leadership and what's actually happening, you miss out, right? So we didn't miss out. We knew that there's some experience that could be done, but Ray knew that this guy would be the best guy to tell the story. So his version was yelling at me about why couldn't I have, or not really yelling, but really kind of upset. And what I said was, well, Ray, we've been talking about developing a mine there since for how long? For a long time, many years. And, but I got squeaky hinges on the door and he's got tons to do. We never would have gone up there. Meantime, we're taking helicopters up there and we're flying through and you're making progress on the mine development. And you want to bitch slap Discovery because they're really helping us achieve our goals while we're, making a great story for them. I mean, I love what we made. And that's when Ray realized, oh, right. As long as we're having fun and we're making great stories, that's actually what our job is and what we're trying to do. And that's what the audience really wants too. And it's what Discovery wants. So we're all really winning, but it's very easy to get caught up on, but it should be this way or that way. So it's a group effort. You know what I mean?
Like the dynamite scenes were one of my favorite scenes. Especially that drives the airplane that they dropped they dropped some dynamite sticks, I think, to you guys on the mountain. Like, was that really happened? Like, he really dropped it?
All of those things that you saw really happened.
That's crazy. That's cool.
That whole idea of dropping stuff, the idea of avalanche control, the ideas are correct. And they happened that way as we told that story. I guess my frustration with the Mother Lode is that it's not a tour already, and that has nothing to do with Discovery.
Sure, of course not. Yeah,
they would have loved to keep going and all that. And I think the reason, as I was saying before about the production of the show, it's a very expensive show to make, and it was just great production value. So I think that's probably why after 4 years, at one point, I think in 2017, Discovery purchased the other half of cable television, purchased Scripps Network, and so they had to cut some shows. And even though we had 4 years and we were actually greenlit for year 5.
Yeah, I know.
We were greenlit.
It wasn't. Yeah.
And normally when something's greenlit, you can't pull back, but they purchased Scripps Network for $13.5 billion. So fair enough, And I was actually really perfect. And sure, I'd do it for the rest of my life, but I had such a great time. I have no regrets.
No, okay. So and I'm going to let you go here pretty soon. We're hitting the 30-minute mark. But before I let you go, I want to set the record straight because, you watch stuff on YouTube, and I did a lot of research, and there's some YouTube video that you're not even really on it. They're just showing clips of you and different things from the film. And it says that one of your biggest, I don't know who made the YouTube video. It says one of your biggest regrets in life was doing Edge of Alaska with Discovery Channel. Like, you regretted that.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah, I know. So I'm gonna comment with this video on that guy's.
I gotta see the video you're talking about. Like, how do they get?
I'll send you the link.
My character was kind of creepy to me. Like, I'm like, wow, but I don't understand how the idea that we were not having fun, I guess we're fighting, but it was a blast. It was one of the coolest things we've ever done.
That's one thing when you get out there in the public's eye, people can make stuff about you that you don't even know that's out there.
People's opinions of me are none of my business. That's a separate category of their stuff. I never.
Yep. So Neil Darish, look, I'm gonna tell everybody and what drew me to you in the first place was your personality. You're an entrepreneur. You have the bar. Didn't you own the town at one point or most of the buildings, and you wind up selling it?
I'm really visible. I've got currently I have 11 businesses in town with Don, who was a business partner that you saw on the show.
Yeah. Yep.
And
the oil guy, right?
I'm not going anywhere. We had it on the market for a few years, and what we learned was nobody wants to buy a bazillion-dollar lighthouse 1,000 miles north of Maine, because that's kind of what it's like. It's a one-off thing. It's for and we love it, so we're having a blast with it. Anyway, I really appreciate having me on, Sebastian. It was a surprise, and thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay right there. Don't go anywhere just yet. I want to thank everyone who watches The Loud Spot. Please go check out Edge of Alaska. It's on Discovery Channel. If you have the Discovery Channel app, you can go and search it. There's 4 seasons. It's I watched every single episode. Loved it. Thank you, Neil, for being on the show. Check us out, www.theloudspot.net, patreon.com/theloudspot. We got merchandise. Check us out on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Deezer, all the above, and that's all I got. Peace out, rock on, much love.
This is the Loud Spot outro by nothing short of tragic. Is this all talk with no action? No. Is this my thoughts with distraction? No. Is this what I bought that's in fashion? Or is this the Loud Spot with Sebastian? Yes. Does nothing short of tragic have us back again? Yes. Does anything that's good really have to end? A pin post has to pin show, so to get more episodes, make an order, this is over.
Thanks for watching our video. Don't forget to click the like and share button.
Don't forget to go to our YouTube and subscribe.
If you want to listen to our audio and pick up some cool merch, go to www.theloudspot.net. Peace out, rock on, much love.
Maryland sports fans, there's only one sports book in the great state of Maryland with over 50 years experience booking bets and supporting customers. Betfred Sportsbook at Longshots is now open and is the only sports book in Frederick offering cash betting on football, basketball, world soccer, and more. Visit the Betfred Sportsbook at I-270 and MD-85 in Frederick, right next to Longshots off-track betting. Go to betfredsports.com for more information and your chance to win exclusive merchandise. Must be 21 or older. Play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.